Okay, this is painting 2 for the little art exhibition, and it's a bit smaller than the previous one. So I thought on this painting, there's my linseed oil, I will do the left side of the painting in cool colors, which I'm busy with now, darks, very quiet, and on the right side of the painting I'll use a more warmer color, like a yellow ochre, reddish, warm colors, and a bit busier, so that I have a contrast between quiet and busy, or noisy, if you want to call it that. As I mentioned in my previous painting, I am using the universe as my point of reference, the galaxy, the nebula, space dust, etc. But by no means am I really trying to paint copies of the universe as such. I'm moving it into my own abstraction, but keeping the cosmos and its shapes and the wildness, beautiful pictures you see from James Webb Telescope and Hubble, that leaves so much open to the imagination. So I'm working within that sort of realm. And the beginning stage, as usual, I'm just using linseed oil, no turpentine, and oil paint. And first layer, putting down paint, covering the canvas, putting some design in here. The darks of the blacks and the whites is going to be quite a strong contrast. So I'm just trying to create that contrast line. Of course, I will change those shapes a little bit and soften them in as I go. But it's just an idea to work quite freely in the beginning without too much, not too tight, without too much restriction, and just basically enjoy the process. And what I love to do is to work with a lot of accidents, happy accidents, that sort of guide me as I paint without wanting to take too much control of the painting. Now, I really put white with my initial coat, but because I'm going to be dealing with this very strong contrast of the black and the white, my gut just tells me I need to put some white there on the edge, just to create the contrast in the initial painting. Otherwise it may just become a little bit flat and boring tonally. So I think that's enough here. Right, now that the basic canvas is covered, I come in with my little Japanese brush and just add a lovely linear element to the compositions. I'm just going to focus here on the left side, which is going to be more line and a lot busier in design, and the right side will be a lot quieter and darker and cooler, and this will be the hot side as such. So I'm going to try and get the what this would be space dust or something to blend in, and then the right side to have a sort of a sense of depth and distance. In the end, that's kind of what I'm working towards. I don't know where it's going to take me, because a lot of these paintings, they kind of paint themselves, if you know what I mean. Because I don't like to be in too much control. I like to work with the accidents and to create deliberate accidents for myself to work into, so that there's something unexpected coming in. I'm not too much in control, otherwise I just find I get a bit bored and the whole thing gets too stiff and too predictable and doesn't have that sort of evocative feeling of, mysticism and whatever it is that inspires each artist. Well, that's what inspires me. So this initial stage is just the linseed oil and the paint, and just pushing it around, putting quite a lot of linseed on, get it in quite rich, and just play with the paint and clean up and be very free. And you see, a lot of those lines had formed themselves, so I'm working with my linear brush into what's already there, not needing to create too much of my own stuff, because the paint has already kind of led me the way. So I take my cues from what's already there, and then with the bigger brush, just soften things in and to create a little bit of a texture. And what's also nice is that the colors mix themselves on the canvas because of the linseed oil, and by pushing it around softly and paint, like for instance there, when the paint mixes with the black, you get it creates its own purple or its own green colors I wouldn't be able to mix or deliberately mix on the palette. They sort of mix themselves on the canvas as I push them around. Like here, for instance, I'm pushing the burnt sienna over the green with the linseed oil, and it creates a very nice semi-greeny browny texture when it dries that comes through, that I wouldn't have wanted to or been able to mix, or I wouldn't have mixed the same way, because thousands more tones and colors appear this way than I would have possibly imagined to mix on my own on the palette. So I find that a very nice way of working in this particular style. So there, I'm just carrying on with the same thing here. Oops, sorry there, I'm still learning to edit properly. I'm gone off the canvas a bit, but I will correct those mistakes in the future. So there's no paint going onto the brush at this stage, just linseed oil, cloth, and drying up what's there, cleaning it up basically, and mixing in the colors in and getting a soft blend of, but not too blendy, just enough. There, look, a lot of linseed oil in the beginning stages. See how it runs if you leave it for an hour or two. So the next step now is just to use a dry brush and to work into it what's there, and to just push it around, settle it, and try and pick up as much paint as possible, and also keep blending the paints together in a controlled way so that it doesn't become muddy or messy, but it also creates new colors as they blend together on the canvas. Unexpected colors, which is nice to work with at accidents. It sort of makes it more interesting and evocative. And that's sort of towards the end of that sort of phase. Again, seldom I do add white at this stage, but this just seems to need it a little bit because of that contrast coming. And then just push it in gently. See, because the paint here at this stage is still very wet and very full of linseed oil, so it does move very nice and sensually and softly, and you can actually really play with it. It's quite malleable, it's almost like clay, and put some tone in, some darker tones like there, for instance, to make it more interesting tonally, and then leave the whites white and make the darks dark to create some drama and some dialogue between different types. So yeah, see how the colors mix themselves. It's very exciting and unexpected. Yeah, and there again now I'm just going to blend it in a little bit, but don't blend too much because I just find it makes it muddy and dead. So to leave some of the original rough marks and runs here and there, and clean it up a little bit and dry brush it through. I go like that, and yeah, there's not too much more one can do in the initial stage. The canvas is very rough because I have painted on these canvases before. I kind of like that rough finish to work into. It makes it very three-dimensional. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and lovely textures arriving and keeping them. Yeah, just clean up, push into the paint. Patience and pleasure, and it's always nice and surprising to see what comes up. Playing a little bit there with some cosmic rays you get in the sun, something like that, but I mean that will not show in the end. One can play a little bit now. It'll all disappear with the second, third, fourth layer, because I mean this is only session A, so this will probably go through about 6 or 7 sessions. But as I mentioned in the previous painting video with painting 1, this is painting 2, session A, that now because of the linseed oil the painting needs to relax. It's going to go, I'm going to leave it for about 2 weeks as well with the first painting, and then I'm starting my third one after this video. And yeah, then I'm working on about 10 paintings at the same time because of the drying of the linseed oil. It takes a very long time, and it has to be dry before I move into my next layer because of the nature of the subject matter, it will just become a mess. It will become very, very muddy and mushy. Okay, so now the left side, the dark side, needs to be sorted out and attended to. So here I'm just going in with a black and some ultramarine and a lot of linseed oil. And then in the area in the middle, I'm not adding any more paint. This is purely linseed there to keep it transparent, see how it runs. And because it's going to be a very quiet area. So I want to actually have it quite dark. And now to avoid the runs, I've put it on the floor and I'm pushing it around because I want to splatter a little bit of white onto this dark to sort of look like, well, you would call them stars, but I'm not trying to paint stars. I just like that feel of the texture. And then with a lot of linseed oil, because I don't want any more runs to happen, I'm just going to blend it in a little bit and then leave it flat for about a week and a half. I'll put it away and let it dry and blend in and beautiful textures, because if I start running it now, if it starts running now, I'm going to have to go back and back over it again because it is quite thick with the linseed oil. And this is basically Fez's first session done on this painting. And yeah, a little bit of blue just for some tone to make it interesting. A lot of linseed oil. And she can go to sleep for another 2 weeks and we'll revisit her in 2 weeks. And that's about it for Painting 2 Session A. Thank you.